British Empire's fleets were not enough. Persian civilization was not enough. Rome's riches were not enough. If every empire declines, is the American empire crumbling before our eyes?
We are well underway on the rise
For the first time in U.S. history, a convicted felon will sit in the Oval Office.
How does an empire die? Tribes, armies, and organizations appear and devour the heritage of the former superpower, often from within.
And what we not gonna do is stand around when they pull this bullshit that they trying to pull right now.
America is not the greatest country in the world anymore.
The house of cards, known as the American Empire, is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, which can easily be seen by examining three key areas of previous empires.
When its people no longer believe in it, then does an empire begin to die.
Let's dive into the fall of Rome, the blueprint for greatness that America seems to be following, right down to its tragic unraveling.
Rome, at the height of its grandeur and its glory, a civilization so powerful it could never be conquered from without. Yet it found the seeds of its destruction within itself.
The Roman Empire was an unparalleled superpower of the ancient world. Its contributions, architecture, art, law, and philosophy are still seen, studied, and appreciated even today. Conquering vast territories and ruling over millions of people, it literally shaped the world in its image.
That is the Roman way.
Possibly the biggest and most epic contribution from Rome was its fall. But it didn't fall in a day. It fell slowly. It was death by 1,000 cuts.
Today, we'll compare Rome's deepest piercing wounds to America's
Internal decay.
The ruling class owned bountiful homes, hundreds of slaves, and hosted lavish banquets for one another, reclining on silken couches, eating roasted peacock and honey-soaked dormice. Contrast that with the squalor of overcrowded and overpriced tenements, where the poor battled against broken-down buildings.
They were also susceptible to being on fire, collapse, and aided in the spread of disease.
Look, the Romans built this stuff. It must have been good for them to live there. No. For most of the people, they had an oppressive government that was stealing lots of stuff.
The wealthy avoided taxes through bribery and influence, while the commoners, their tax burden was increased repeatedly. And if, for some reason, they could not pay, the very real possibility of slavery loomed over all of their heads. Justice was for sale in the final days of the empire, as bribery swayed decisions in every corner.
Things got worse for the individuals as their big, intrusive government was stepping on them more and more. So what you started seeing was people actually leaving the Roman Empire voluntarily to go among the barbarians because life would be better.
Deep resentment festered in the empire, erupting into protests, uprisings, and violent riots. Now what can this tell us about Rome's great-grandson, America?
The American dream.
The American dream. American dream.
The American dream.
Owning a home.
Because in a well-built house with adequate leisure, they can live and work as better Americans.
The American dream once promised that hard work would lead to success and a comfortable life. Today, this ideal seems out of reach for many Americans.
Living in America is freaking ridiculous right now. I can't afford any of these apartments.
$1,800 for a one-bedroom apartment.
$1,400 for 485 square feet.
I have to just live in my truck.
Today, financing the American dream in America is a far-fetched fantasy for most of America.
It's the new face of homelessness in America. Folks who are working full-time but with nowhere to live.
I would have never imagined that we would be homeless. Never.
When you're that hungry to steal bread from the restaurants behind the stores, you're hungry.
No break! No break! No break!
The gap between the rich and the rest of us is getting bigger as they have stagnated wages and their companies have exploded the cost of living.
Right now in the United States, we are facing a hunger crisis.
This guy can eat 1647.
How are we supposed to feed our families like this, you guys? Like, what are y'all doing?
Compare the U.S. to almost any other advanced country, everything costs more. Boxes cost more, trucks cost more, devices cost more.
America is devolving into a country that is for the corporations and by the corporations.
It's like a big company, like a big corporation, America Incorporated.
Big pharma spreading addiction, con artist insurance companies, corporate landlords price-fixing entire cities. Even grocery stores are playing God, turning essentials into luxury items, blaming the supply chain and watching their profits soar.
Meanwhile, Tyson Foods, a major producer of chicken, beef, and hot dogs, increased its profits by 140% last quarter.
Elon Musk has been given access to the U.S. Treasury Department's vast payment system. The move essentially puts the government's multi-trillion-dollar checkbook in the hands of the world's richest man.
Blatant corruption, unchecked government, and unchecked corporations cause anger and frustration, which adds to the financial erosion of America.
It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
Not only is the nation crumbling financially, but the social fabric is unraveling also.
Americans are so furious about healthcare that they are straight up murdering CEOs in broad daylight.
Government-backed white supremacy. Failure to protect the most vulnerable.
Atlanta, 2 students and 2 teachers were killed.
And reckless leadership driving the nation into chaos. All fuel an internal collapse of confidence and a complete breakdown of society.
It's called the American dream because you have to be asleep to believe it.
The American empire has thrived because of 2 complementary forces, hard power and soft power. You can think of soft power as feminine, the ability to attract and entice, and hard power as masculine, the ability to enforce. Both persuade subordinates to do what you want them to do. Which brings us to our second symptom of imperial downfall, the loss of soft power. To understand soft power and its role in the downfall of empires, let's compare the USA to the very first superpower that ever existed, the Persian Empire. The Persian Empire was unique. It was established and governed primarily through soft power.
The first Persian Empire was founded by Cyrus the Great.
Cyrus created and maintained an empire thanks no doubt to his military savvy, but he was also a political genius. He was an excellent, benevolent manager of men. The Jews called him Mashiach, or Anointed One. His own people called him Father, and even the Ionian Greeks, whom he conquered, called him a just and worthy lawgiver and ruler.
Cyrus the Great, a visionary leader and a ruler who was called out by name by the prophet Isaiah 150 years before his birth. Cyrus conquered all that he saw, a realm so vast that it stretched from the sun-baked plains of Mesopotamia to the rugged mountains of Central Asia. He freed the Jewish people from Babylon and built the first stable, sprawling government.
The Persian Empire under Cyrus the Great soon became the world's first superpower.
It was soft power at its finest. He abolished slavery throughout his entire empire. He allowed conquered kings to stay in their position over their people, and he allowed people the freedom of religion with a highly effective decentralized system. For as long as the leadership was strong and just, all of the subjects worked harmoniously under one flag for the good of the empire. After the reign of Darius the Great, the government became a toxic environment.
Kings became greedy and began stealing from the supply of riches. The people below the upper class started organizing riots. The satraps also became more independent. They even waged war on each other.
When the people stopped believing in the empire's moral high ground, it lost the intangible glue that held its vast territories together. Once the sprawling empire lost its soft power, it lost all that it had. And just like Persia, America manipulated soft power to become the most powerful nation the world has ever seen.
This is the big picture.
Since the end of World War II,
now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
America didn't just win the war, it won the world after showing the world that it had the most destructive power known to man and the moxie to use it. The USA, the most charismatic and feared salesman the world had ever seen, sold the idea of a wholesome, democratic American dream. After creating international organizations to control the world's currency, the USA set off on a PR campaign to position itself as the architect of a new world order, where its power would be unrivaled. And it wasn't just economic power, it was soft power. Hollywood, pop culture, American capitalism, And the promise of a just democracy became America's calling card, even though America's credibility has been suspect since day one. To maintain the charade and influence the planet the way America wants to influence the planet,
We have led by our example as a shining city on a hill. Relax. Okay, please. You're doing fine. You're talking fine.
the world needs to believe in American moral authority and in the dream that it sells. The American product seems to have lost a lot of its appeal, and the mask has come off, both at home.
Yes. Go Party. He will be the first president to enter the White House as a convicted felon.
And abroad. America has toppled democracies, weaponized the dollar, sponsored ethnic cleansing, committed atrocious human rights violations.
We tortured some folks.
From the world's move toward de-dollarization to a fading global influence in technology, media, and diplomacy, America's soft power is unraveling. When soft power fails, empires lean on hard power to enforce their will.
That brings us to our final symptom of a sick and dying empire, world domination by hard power. And a great example of hard power unseating a world leader is the British colonial empire. The British Empire looked and acted exactly how you think a colonial empire would, with tyranny, conquest, and resource extraction at its core. It ruled over 400 million people, almost a quarter of the planet at its height. They relied on their military to establish and maintain power. Wars in their colonies, wars at sea, and wars at home. They ruthlessly crushed all resistance for centuries. After a string of costly and humiliating defeats and the massive expense of rebuilding after World War II, Britain was devastated, unable to defend its territories abroad or sustain its citizens at home. The sun had finally set on the British Empire. As Britain's empire crumbled, another was already rising to take its
$110 billion into Ukraine, the Vietnam War.
The war in Afghanistan.
The United States launched its invasion of Iraq.
Trillions spent and no victories to show for it.
The United States being by far the chief